This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. Good morning, I'm John Trout. It's Wednesday, June 25th, 2025. Here's what's coming up on America in the Morning.
An early intelligence report suggests U.S. strikes in Iran only set back the country's nuclear program by months. Ed Donahue, Washington.
A political shocker in New York City.
Tonight, we made history.
I'm Rich Johnson.
President Trump putting the pressure on Congress to get his big, beautiful bill across the finish line. I'm Clayton Neville.
A man convicted of raping and killing a woman outside a bar has been executed in Florida. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
On Wall Street, day 2 of a relief rally. On easing Middle East tensions, oil prices plunged again. I'm Jessica Ettinger.
A man charged with aiding the bomber of a fertility clinic in California has died in federal custody. I'm Haya Panjwani.
All ahead on America in the Morning. Not obliterated. A newly uncovered classified report says the U.S. bombings of 3 Iranian nuclear facilities may not have achieved the objectives widely reported. And a delay of congressional briefings on Iran has some members of Congress asking questions. With the latest on how the Middle East is affecting things here at home, here's Correspondent Ed Donahue.
An early intelligence report suggests U.S. strikes in Iran only set back the country's nuclear program by months. Sources tell the AP the report is from the Defense Intelligence Agency and says the attacks on the 3 nuclear sites did significant damage in Iran, but they were not completely destroyed. It contradicts what President Trump has been saying.
Iran's key nuclear enrichment facilities have been completely and totally obliterated.
The White House strongly pushed back on the assessment, calling it flat out wrong and an attempt to demean President Trump and discredit the brave fighter pilots who conducted the mission.
Those pilots hit their targets. Those targets were obliterated, and the pilots should be given credit. They're not after the pilots, they're after me. They want to try and demean.
Do you believe that Iran can rebuild its nuclear program?
Iran will never rebuild its nuclear. From there? Absolutely not. That place is under rock. That place is demolished.
One of the sources says at the deeply buried Fordo uranium enrichment plant, the entrance collapsed. Infrastructure was damaged, so that it will take time to fix, but the underground infrastructure was not destroyed.
The strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities were clearly within President Trump's Article 2 powers as Commander-in-Chief. It shouldn't even be in dispute.
The Trump administration postponed classified briefings for members of Congress on Iran. Sources tell the AP the Senate briefing was pushed back 2 days so Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth and Secretary of State Marco Rubio can be there.
The last-minute postponement was just a dereliction of their duty.
Democrats like Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer say the president should have gone to Congress for approval of the Iran missile attacks.
What the heck is going on? They are just out of control, violating every precept, every principle, every law, unlike any other administration in American history.
Sources say Congress has not received any new intelligence since Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard told lawmakers in March the U.S. believed Iran was not building a new nuclear weapon. Republicans like Alaska's Dan Sullivan are not as concerned about the delay.
The Pentagon's pretty busy right now, and so we're respectful of that.
Members of the House will be briefed Friday. Ed Donahue, Washington.
Former New York State Governor Andrew Cuomo's comeback attempt may be over as he finished second in the Democrat primary for mayor of New York City. Correspondent Rich Johnson has more on the race that's shocking the system and energizing progressives far beyond the Big Apple.
He's 33 years old, in his 3rd term as a state assemblyman, an unapologetic Democratic socialist, and now...
Tonight, we made history.
Zohran Mamdani is probably the Democratic Party's nominee for mayor of New York City. He campaigned on a simple message: New York needs to be affordable for all its citizens.
Where hard work is repaid with a stable life. Where 8 hours on the factory floor or behind the wheel of a cab is enough to pay the mortgage. It is enough to keep the lights on. It is enough to send your kid to school. Where rent-stabilized apartments are actually stabilized.
Mamdani won about 44% of Democratic votes compared to 36% for former New York Governor Andrew Cuomo.
Tonight was not our night.
Cuomo's comeback attempt from the sexual harassment scandal that ended his governorship 4 years ago may not be over. He says he's already qualified to run as an independent in November and will take a while before deciding if he'll do it. The primary is not officially over. Mamdani needs to win more than 50% of the vote under the city's ranked choice system. The votes will be re-ranked next week. But a deal between Mamdani and the third-place candidate to endorse each other as their second choice will probably give Mamdani the win. I'm Rich Johnson.
The top stories of the day are sponsored by Sleep Number. Smarter sleep is life-changing. Save over $600 on a Sleep Number King P5 smart bed, the lowest price of the season, only at a Sleep Number store. July 4th deadline for Big Beautiful Bill when America in the Morning continues after these messages. This is America in the Morning. There were 100-plus degree temperature readings in cities too numerous to mention yesterday. Here's today's forecast with AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Much of the eastern U.S. will continue to swelter today as this heat wave continues. We saw some very high record temperatures yesterday. We got to a high of 102 in Boston. That was the hottest June temperature on record. Got to 99 in Central Park in New York City, 101 in Philadelphia. Both of those temperatures, the hottest it's been in 13 years. And we're going to consider to see that heat today. Temperatures up close to 90 in Boston, so not as hot as yesterday, but still mid to upper 90s for New York City, Philadelphia, near 100 in Baltimore and D.C. And we'll still have some triple-digit heat in parts of the Mid-Atlantic and down into the Carolinas as well. Raleigh and Charlotte up near 100 as well. We will be watching for some showers and thunderstorms in the east, though, today. They may cool things off in some spots this afternoon, basically from southern New England down along the I-95 corridor through the Carolinas into Georgia and all the way down to the Florida Panhandle. Could have some downpours and some gusty winds with some of those storms that do develop. And there will be another area of some strong storms back through parts of the Great Lakes, through southern parts of lower Michigan into Wisconsin, even around Chicago. There could be a heavier thunderstorm. It won't be quite as hot in places like Detroit, Milwaukee, and Chicago as we head throughout the day. Some spotty, strong storms back into the northern plain states, even down into the eastern parts of the Four Corners region and out to the west. It is going to be a mostly quiet day, although there will be a couple of showers in the Pacific Northwest. And that's the weather across America. In New York City today, another hot and humid day with sun and some clouds, maybe a late day thunderstorm, high 96. Cool in San Francisco as clouds give way to sunshine, high 66. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump is putting the pressure on Congress to pass his big, beautiful bill before July 4th with urgency. Correspondent Clayton Neville files this.
A social media post by President Trump on Tuesday said, quote, "To my friends in the Senate, lock yourself in a room if you must. Don't go home and get the deal done this week." He urged senators to work with the House so they can pick it up and pass it. He added in all caps, "Immediately. No one goes on vacation until it's done." Both the Senate and the House are being urged to reconcile their differences in versions of the bill and get it to Trump's desk by the 4th of July. House Speaker Mike Johnson touting the security included in the bill.
This bill funds President Trump's Golden Dome to bolster long-range missile defense capabilities. How many of you know that's kind of important right now? It accelerates the modernization of our nuclear deterrent. Couldn't have a better time for that. And it revitalizes our defense industrial base.
And Congressman Steve Scalise points to energy security in the legislation.
To allow America to continue producing more oil so we don't have to be dependent on foreign countries. So world markets aren't worried about an action Iran might take.
Some Republicans are pushing back against the bill, saying it doesn't cut spending enough. Democrats criticize cuts to Medicaid. I'm Clayton Neville.
Death row inmate executed in Florida. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer has more on the story.
A man convicted of raping and killing a woman outside a bar has been executed in Florida. 51-year-old Thomas Lee Godinez was pronounced dead Tuesday evening following a lethal injection. He was convicted of killing Michelle McGrath, who was last seen at a bar shortly after 3 a.m. on May 24, 1994. Her body was found hours later in an alley beside a nearby school. A school employee who came upon McGrath's body later identified Godinez as a man who was fleeing the area. Godinez was executed after the U.S. Supreme Court denied his final appeal. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
When we return on America in the Morning, regulators cite recent Tesla robo-taxi incidents after these messages. This is America in the Morning. The Business Report is brought to you by Fisher Investments. Fisher Investments is a fiduciary, always putting clients' interests first. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Here's CNBC's Jessica Ettinger with the Midweek Report.
Wall Street opens this morning after another relief rally for stocks yesterday on easing tensions in the Middle East. The Dow up more than 500 points, oil plunging. Yesterday, oil prices have had their biggest two-day drop in 5 years since the start of the pandemic. Investors are betting the Israel-Iran truce will hold, but things could change in an instant. It is a news-driven market.
There is clearly a baseline assumption in all of this that this wouldn't escalate too far. If you looked at the reaction, even when you did see oil prices move up, it seemed relatively limited. And now at least that confidence does seem to be justified. But like you, watching the headlines minute to minute.
That's BNP Paribas' Daniel Morris on CNBC. Prices at the pump held steady yesterday. AAA says the national average for a gallon of regular, $3.22. That's up about 8 cents in the past week. Fed Chair Jay Powell was grilled by a House committee yesterday. He said that interest rates could be cut if inflation doesn't rise, but with tariffs, inflation is expected to rise. The Fed is just waiting for more data. The Fed chair testifies to a Senate committee today. Consumer confidence for June. Numbers from the Conference Board, not so great.
93, a bit of a disappointment. If we look at present situation, the weakest going all the way back to Sep of 24.
That's CNBC's Rick Santelli. Tesla robo-taxi incidents caught on camera in just the first 2 days of the Tesla rollout in Austin already have regulators' attention.
The National Highway Traffic Safety Administration says it's contacted Tesla after reviewing online videos of robo-taxis allegedly in the wrong lane and speeding on roads in Austin, Texas. Tesla began a limited paid robo-taxi service with a dozen or so cars in the city on Sunday.
CNBC's Silvana Henao. Carnival cruise shares popped higher yesterday on strong quarterly results. The cruise business is booming. Carnival's results and commentary on strong consumer demand helped shares of Norwegian add 5%. Royal Caribbean and Viking each up about 3%. If you're looking for a house that may be more affordable, the cities that saw massive home price increases in the pandemic, well, they're now seeing the biggest price cuts. Negative home prices, meaning sellers are cutting prices to sell in Tampa, Florida, and Dallas, Texas now. About 19 million Americans are planning to fly for the 4th of July holiday, which is a week from Friday. The travel period starts this Friday, though, as many people have taken all of next week off, and they'll be getting on the road or in the skies as early as this Friday afternoon. On today's watch list, we get earnings from Micron. We get newly built home sales numbers for May. The NBA draft begins in New York City.
From champs to draft, a quick turnaround. CNBC's Jessica Ettinger. When we return on America in the Morning, fertility clinic bombing, surprise turn of events after these messages. A man being held in federal custody in California in connection with the Palm Springs fertility clinic bombing last month has been found dead. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
A man charged with aiding the bomber of a fertility clinic in California has died in federal custody just weeks after his arrest. 32-year-old Daniel Park was accused of supplying chemicals to the bomber Guy Edward Bartkiss, who died in the May 17th explosion. The two men connected in fringe online forums over their shared beliefs against human procreation. The blast gutted the fertility clinic in Palm Springs and shattered the windows of nearby buildings. Officials called the attack terrorism and possibly the largest bomb scene ever in Southern California. The clinic was closed and no embryos were damaged. No cause of death was provided for Park. He'd been charged with providing and attempting to provide material support to terrorists. I'm Haya Panjwani.
President Trump arrives in the Netherlands for the NATO summit, his first trip with European allies since returning to the White House for his second term. Julie Walker reports.
Deplaning Air Force One with a white USA ball cap on his head, President Trump arriving in the Netherlands Tuesday night for a NATO meeting with world leaders at The Hague.
President, Mr. President, please. One picture.
But first, it's picture time with those other leaders and then a big group dinner. Aboard Air Force One, he told reporters whether he'll commit to NATO mutual defense depends on your definition of Article 5.
There's numerous definitions of Article 5. You know that, right? But I'm committed to being their friends. I've become friends with many of those leaders, and I'm committed to helping them.
The NATO Secretary General says he has no doubt about the U.S. commitment to Article 5's guarantee, which says an armed attack on one member is an attack on all. I'm Julie Walker.
America in the Morning for Wednesday, June 25th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One. This is America in the Morning from Westwood One. I'm John Trout. Coming up this half hour.
The Trump administration pushing back on reports the American missile attacks in Iran did not completely destroy their nuclear sites. I'm John Stolnis in Washington.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says an interest rate cut is on hold.
Anything else is kind of a distraction.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
Florida officials are racing ahead with construction of what they've dubbed as Alligator Alcatraz. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
The United States' most advanced aircraft has left its base in Virginia. I'm Haya Panjwani.
A bipartisan vote to block impeachment. Devastating South Carolina lightning strike with injuries. Did he do it? Defense rests in Combs' trial. Plus, Robert Workman with sports. America in the Morning back after these messages. This is America in the Morning. Well, believe it or don't, this is the last Wednesday of June 2025. Here's today's forecast from AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
Thunderstorm chances will be rising today across the east amidst the heat wave that is going on. There are going to be some breaks in the heat coming, especially across the northeast here as we head into the next couple of days as some cooler air tries to move in from the north and northeast. There will be some storms that do develop later this afternoon from southern New England back through the mid-Atlantic states. Through the Carolinas, could be some heavy thunderstorms this afternoon and down through Atlanta and into the Florida Panhandle as well. So that may help cool things off a little bit. It's not going to help with the humidity, though, which is going to remain high across most of the east today. Temperatures mostly in the 90s. There still will be some triple-digit heat from around Baltimore and Washington, D.C., down through parts of the Carolinas. Now, back toward the upper Midwest and into the Great Lakes, we're also going to be watching for the potential for some stronger thunderstorms that could produce some damaging wind gusts, certainly some heavy downpours from Detroit and Chicago, really much of Wisconsin, back through Minnesota and into the Dakotas as well. And it's not going to be quite as hot across the Great Lakes today. Chicago and Detroit topping out in the 80s, a big change from recent days when it's been in the 90s much of the time. Now, across the southern plains, parts of the Gulf Coast, we're going to be dodging some spotty thunderstorms from Mississippi back through Louisiana and into Texas. Eastern parts of the Four Corners region from Denver down through Colorado Springs, there will be some storms. There could be some heavy storms that could produce some flash flooding in parts of New Mexico through El Paso, and then through the desert, the rest of the desert southwest, it will be pretty dry. Expecting a dry day across California and into the Pacific Northwest. A couple of spotty showers in parts of Washington and Oregon. Most areas, though, will stay dry. That's the nation's weather. I'm AccuWeather.com meteorologist Brian Thompson.
You can follow us wherever you get your podcasts. Just search America in the Morning in your favorite listening app. President Trump is denying a report that disputes his claim American bombers completely destroyed the nuclear sites in Iran they hit Saturday night. John Stolnis has the latest from Washington.
CNN reported the 3 sites hit by U.S. military strikes did not have a drastic effect on Iran's nuclear program, quoting unnamed intelligence officials who claim the strikes only set their program back by months. Later reported by the New York Times as well, President Trump took to social media disputing those reports, saying the bombings were, quote, one of the most successful military strikes in history, and added, quote, the nuclear sites in Iran are completely destroyed. Speaking to reporters as he left the White House for NATO meetings in the Netherlands, the president angrily condemned Iran and Israel for violating the ceasefire after Iran fired a missile and Israel retaliated with multiple strikes.
You know what? We basically have 2 countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Trump had specifically harsh words for Israel.
You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either.
State Department spokesperson Tammy Bruce says the president's diplomatic style is straightforward.
The president has believed from the beginning that diplomacy can stop wars, that it is the thing that we should rely on. He leaned into that, and it's continuing to work. This is a dynamic now that is in play.
Democrats in Congress are upset after a classified closed briefing with lawmakers was abruptly postponed, leading Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer to wonder if the Trump administration hasn't been honest about the results of the airstrikes.
Last-minute postponement of our briefing is outrageous, it's evasive, it's derelict. They're bobbing and weaving and ducking. Senators deserve full transparency. There is a legal obligation for the administration to inform Congress about precisely what is happening. What are they afraid of?
The White House says the briefing was moved to Friday due to evolved circumstances. House Democratic Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar.
It is completely unacceptable that Congress has not been briefed on this in a timely fashion. We need evidence, we need details, and we need to know them now.
Meanwhile, House Republicans voted to block consideration of an effort led by Democratic Congressman Al Green to bring impeachment articles against Trump over the airstrikes. Just 79 Democrats voted in favor. John Stolnis, Washington.
An effort to impeach President Trump, brought by a Texas congressman, was quashed in the House with bipartisan disapproval. Correspondent Clayton Neville reports.
President Trump had a response on Truth Social about the effort by progressive Democrats to impeach him. He said, quote, "Go ahead and try impeaching me again. Make my day." Lawmakers agreed to table the measure in a 344 to 79 vote. 128 Democrats voted against the resolution introduced by Congressman Al Green.
Because I believe that the President of the United States has committed an impeachable act.
The move surrounds U.S. strikes on Iranian nuclear sites without discussing that action with Congress first.
H-Res 57 addresses abuse of presidential powers by disregarding the separation of powers, devolving American democracy into an authoritarian government, usurping congressional power to declare war.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez backed the impeachment along with other progressives. Democrats who opposed impeachment included all House Democratic leadership. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries believes Congress should have been consulted, but wouldn't go as far as impeaching. Senator Chuck Schumer wants to tackle the issue in other ways.
It's all the more reason we need the War Powers Act, where they'd have a legal obligation to tell the Congress the details they're now avoiding to tell us.
In President Trump's social media post, he went after AOC's polling numbers and called her one of the dumbest people in Congress. I'm Clayton Neville.
The chairman of the Federal Reserve gave testimony to a House committee and pushed back on calls for cuts in interest rates. Correspondent Ed Donahue reports.
Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell says an interest rate cut is on hold.
We don't see weakness in the labor market. If we did, that would change things. You know, we're going to continue to adapt as the data adapt. But that is the difference between then and now. then inflation was forecasted to continue to come down. Here it's forecasted to go up by all forecasters. So, and again, we're not overreacting to that. We're just saying, hey, as long as the economy's strong, we can take a little bit of a pause here.
Even as President Trump demands cuts, Powell told the House Financial Services Committee tariffs and inflation are holding back a decision.
All forecasters are expecting pretty soon that some significant inflation will show up from tariffs. Now, and we can't just ignore that. But we're not. We're just saying let's wait and see more. That's all we're doing. For the time being, we are well positioned to wait to learn more about the likely course of the economy before considering any adjustments to our policy stance.
On his social media site, President Trump wrote, "I hope Congress really works this very dumb, hard-headed person over." Powell did not face any sharp criticism. He says the Fed wants to deliver a good economy for the benefit of the American people.
Anything else is kind of a distraction. I don't mean to refer to any particular thing, but we stay focused on that task all the time. We always do what we think is the right thing to do.
Powell also said the Fed expects tariff inflation to show up more.
So it's just a question of being prudent and careful. But at a time when the labor market is still strong, we see data that suggests that inflation is not going to produce big increases. That would matter. And if we saw the labor market weakening, that would matter too. But we don't see those things. We have to wait and see, which is kind of what we're doing.
Ed Donahue, Washington.
Detention center in the Sunshine State. More on Alligator Alcatraz when America in the Morning continues after these messages. It's being called Alligator Alcatraz, a massive migrant detention center that'll be built in the Florida Everglades. Correspondent Lisa Dwyer reports the facility comes with some controversy.
Florida officials are racing ahead with construction of what they've dubbed as Alligator Alcatraz. The Immigration Detention Center is located in an isolated Everglades airfield surrounded by mosquito, python, and alligator-filled swamplands. The 5,000-bed facility is expected to open by early July. Supporters of the project tout the dangers of the natural surroundings as a plus to deter anyone from trying to escape. The location has alarmed human rights advocates, environmentalists, and Native American tribal leaders. The Department of Homeland Security calls the facility innovative and cost-effective. I'm Lisa Dwyer.
Another U.S. military strike group being deployed to the Middle East, headlined by the world's longest aircraft carrier. Correspondent Haya Panjwani reports.
The United States' most advanced aircraft has left its base in Virginia. That's for a regularly scheduled deployment that could put the ship near Israel. The U.S. was already planning to deploy the USS Gerald R. Ford when American warplanes bombed Iranian nuclear sites early Sunday. Rear Admiral Paul Lanzillotta is a commander on the ship.
And what a naval mission package does is, as you know, we're mobile and maneuverable, so we can go where we're tasked and then respond as necessary.
The Ford is sailing for the European Theater of Command, which includes the Mediterranean Sea. Lanzillotta says the sailors are following through on President Trump's agenda.
Our force is the physical reality of that notion of peace through strength. Wherever we sail, we bring more than 3 football fields of sovereign American territory to support our tasked mission.
Nearly 4,500 American sailors departed from the nation's largest Navy base in Norfolk. I'm Haya Panjwani.
20 people were injured when lightning struck a South Carolina beach Tuesday night. It happened at Lake Murray, just west of the capital city of Columbia. It was barely raining when a single lightning bolt hit the water and energized a metal cable that surrounds the swimming area. A dozen people were sent to area hospitals. All are expected to survive. In another water-related incident, the death toll has risen to 8, including a DoorDash executive following a fatal boat accident on Lake Tahoe. Correspondent Ben Thomas reports.
Divers searching Lake Tahoe have found the body of the last person missing from a boat that capsized last weekend during a sudden and powerful thunderstorm. That brings the death toll to 8. 2 other people on the boat were rescued immediately and taken to hospital. The Coast Guard says swells of more than 8 feet were recorded around the time the 27-foot vessel flipped over Saturday afternoon. It happened near California's D.L. Bliss State Park on the lake's southwest edge. One woman who had rented a pontoon boat for a friend's bachelorette party says it felt like we were in a tsunami. I'm Ben Thomas.
Illinois Democrat Governor J.B. Pritzker is expected to announce plans to run for a third term. NBC Chicago is reporting that Pritzker, who some have speculated would run for president in 2028, will officially make the announcement tomorrow. Pritzker drew national attention in February when he used part of his State of the State address to paint a parallel between President Trump's rhetoric and the rise of Nazi Germany. Illinois is one of 13 states that does not have gubernatorial term limits. Tesla has had their first test run of their full self-drive robo-taxis in Austin, Texas, with a few glitches. Chuck Palm has details in today's Tech Report.
Tesla kicked off its much-anticipated robo-taxi test in Austin, Texas, to much fanfare and a few missteps. These Tesla taxis are running on the latest full self-drive software, but you were not entirely alone in the cab. Each vehicle had a Tesla employee in the passenger seat as a safety monitor, ready with a kill switch if needed, and remote teleoperators were keeping an eye on things from afar. The test area was geo-fenced to help avoid tricky spots like the airports, other highways, and complex intersections, and was operating from 6 a.m. to midnight. Some videos on social media showed the robo-taxis speeding, swerving into the wrong lane, and even stopping abruptly near a police car. Reports also said that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration had to reach out to Tesla on Monday for more details. Overall feedback was positive by those who got early access. However, competitors like Waymo, already running 1,500 robo-taxis in cities including Austin, are far ahead of Tesla. For more, find me on X at Chuck Palm.
Midweek Sports is in. Here's Robert Workman.
Baseball Tuesday, the Braves used a 5-run sixth inning to put down the Mets 7-4. Matt Olson drove in 3.
You play a game here against the division rival, you get a little extra juice for it, for sure, or back home. You know, that last series at home was a fun one.
Atlanta has won 9 of its last 12. New York has dropped 10 of 11. Dodgers top the Rockies 9-7. Shohei Ohtani hit his 27th home run. That leads the National League. Blue Jays beat the Guardians 10-6. George Springer with a grand slam. Reds shaded the Yankees 5-4 in 11 innings. Rookie Chase Burns, the second overall pick in last year's draft, made his major league debut for Cincinnati and struck out the first 5 batters he faced. First starter to do that in the expansion era. Christian Moore's second home run of the night gave the Angels a 10-inning walk-off 3-2 win over the Red Sox. Rangers rallied past the Orioles 6-5 in 10 innings. Mariners got a run in the top of the 9th to tip the Twins 6-5. Dandy pitching matchup in Houston. The Astros blanked the Phillies 1-0. Cooper Hummel's 8th inning dinger, the only run of the night, as Framber Valdez outdueled Ranger Suarez. Tigers, Rays, Cardinals, Diamondbacks, Brewers, Padres, and Marlins won. NBA draft begins tonight. The Dallas Mavericks own the top pick. They're expected to choose Duke's Cooper Flagg. On the trade front, another deal for the Celtics. Kristaps Porzingis goes to the Hawks, Terrence Mann to the Nets, and George Niang to Boston. The Pelicans send guard C.J. McCollum and center Kelly Olynyk to the Wizards for guard Jordan Poole and wingman Sadiq Bey. That's Wednesday Sports.
When we return on America in the Morning, prosecutors' final words in the Sean Diddy Combs trial after these messages. Welcome back. You're with America in the Morning. The prosecution has rested in the Sean Diddy Combs sex trafficking trial in New York City. Correspondent Julie Walker reports the disgraced music mogul confirms he will not testify in his own defense.
Sean Diddy Combs told the judge at his trial Tuesday that he's doing an excellent job, and the music mogul, wearing a sweater despite the heat, confirming he won't testify in his sex trafficking and racketeering trial. This came after the prosecution rested its case, at which point Combs' lawyers asked the judge to throw out the case, arguing the charges were not proven. The defense then quickly wrapped up their case. Having used their cross-examination of prosecution witnesses to try and prove Combs' his innocence. They say the sex was consensual and part of a swingers lifestyle. Prosecutors say video and 6 weeks of testimony from 34 witnesses, including 2 of Combs' ex-girlfriends, proves their case. Closing arguments are expected Thursday. Julie Walker, New York.
Well, a 1960s heartthrob singer and actor has passed away. Kevin Carr looks back on the career of Bobby Sherman.
Bobby Sherman, teen idol in the 60s and 70s, has died at the age of 81. Sherman's wife, Bridget, announced his death from kidney cancer on Instagram Tuesday. She said he passed away holding her hand while she read him fan letters.
La, la, la.
Known for hits like Julie, Do You Love Me and Easy Come, Easy Go, Sherman started his career after performing at a Hollywood party. Soon, he began recording music and released several records. However, he made his first big splash on television. In 1968, he was cast in Here Comes the Brides opposite David Soul as brothers looking for love in post-Civil War Seattle. Sherman also made appearances on popular shows like The Monkees, The Partridge Family, and The Mod Squad.
Hey, little woman, please make up your mind, you've got to.
Sherman reached teen idol status with the release of such hits like Little Woman. As he grew older, Sherman continued to act, later guest starring on series like Frasier and Murder, She Wrote. In 1998, he returned to performing in the Teen Idol Tour with Peter Noone and Davy Jones. After retiring, he worked as a medical technician and CPR instructor for the LAPD. On his wife's Instagram, she said of his later career, quote, "He showed us what real heroism looks like." I'm Kevin Carr.
Finally today, a man attempting to take a selfie apparently damaged a 300-year-old work of art. It happened at a museum in Florence, Italy, when a man leaned back to take his picture and, in the process, tore the oil painting of a Tuscan prince. The man's image was captured on security video, and police are looking for him. It was a week ago that a man in a different Italian museum in Verona squatted above a Swarovski crystal chair so his wife could take his picture before losing his balance and severely damaging that work of art. Sounds like that piece went from modern to Baroque. America in the Morning for Wednesday, June 25th, 2025 is produced by Jeff McKay. I'm John Trout. This is Westwood One.